I want to turn to Charlie now, because this is a good place to ask you, Charlie, about sort of the appetite for information. Charlie, if you're with us still, you know, as Holly points out, it is not an apples-to-apples comparison when you talk about, for instance, the Hollywood celebrities that Holly's mentioning, and then the royals, who have obviously, clearly, very different roles in our respective societies. But in terms of just the public's desire for information there, can you give us a sense of what that's like? What is that appetite for information about the royals like?
It has been relentless, voracious. And it's been that way for a few months, and it's been building up. So let me remind you of that timeline. So Kensington Palace confirmed the Princess of Wales left hospital on January 29th, now 2 months ago. According to this, she began treatment in late February. The Prince of Wales had to pull out of a memorial service for his godfather on the 27th. Then came that photoshopped photo, and they had to explain that. They had to apologize. The princess apologized herself for it. So in the meantime, there's been this buildup of where's Kate? What's going on with Kate? Is Kate okay? We knew she had major abdominal surgery, and it's a curiosity. The social media hasn't helped at all, because, as Holly said, you know, the number of conspiracy theories that we've seen about this, and it may just be, of course, they wanted to deal with it on their own, especially when it comes to their children, of which they want to be very protective of, and William very protective of Kate. But it might stand to reason that the demand to know what's going on may have forced them to say, look, we finally have to come clean with this. It wouldn't have been an easy decision to make. And you saw how uncomfortable she looked doing it. Yeah, it's a tough thing. You know, this is a family at heart. But the British expectations, the tabloids in particular, nearly every single day they've been going after it. Was this a sighting of Kate? And why isn't she making a public appearance? What is the palace trying to hide? So this is the kind of demand for information. And yes, they are public figures, but it's also a private family dealing with, as Jon LaPook said, you know, the big C. And that's a tough one. Yeah,
and let me ask you, Dr. LaPook, you know, on that point, it is impossible to imagine, I think, for most people, what that white-hot spotlight of attention must feel like at any given time, where Charlie is talking about one's every move is being sort of scrutinized. The absence of you being out in the public is something that is very much noticed. Can you just talk from your own experience treating patients who have been diagnosed and their families, the emotional impact that can have? Because as Charlie was saying, as Holly was saying, you know, this is a wife, this is a mother. In addition to being Catherine, the Princess of Wales, she is a person who must be dealing with the tremendous personal, emotional weight of not only her title, but then her role in her own family.
Right. I'm not surprised that Holly, with her enormous emotional intelligence and compassion, pointed out first that she is a human being. This is a human being. She is a mother. She is a person. So yes, the public wants to know this. Maybe it's a teaching moment. We'd like more details. The doctor in me, the optimistic doctor in me, thinks, wow, it was found early. If we knew a little more, maybe people would feel better if we could explain exactly how it happened, what was that initial surgery, and all of those details. But then there's the person. She's a human being. And you think about the word empathy here, right? Because what I see with patients who go through anything, it could be, by the way, open heart surgery. It could be major abdominal surgery. It could be suddenly finding out they have cancer. That you're in that fight-flight mode at the beginning. Your adrenaline's going, your cortisol's going, you got to do this, that, and the other thing. And then you're sort of on a better path, and you may be recovering. And then, literally, I've had patients 2 o'clock in the morning, bolt up in bed in a cold sweat, weeks or months later, and be surprised by the thought of, oh my gosh, that happened. You know, that was a bullet that just went by my head, even if it turned out fine. And then we all know that there's mortality. We all know that someday we're going to die. But there is that little thought, maybe, just maybe, I am the first person who's not going to die. There's, you know, especially younger people think that. And so that first brush with mortality, if that's what this is, I don't know what happened to her in her life before that, but that can be very destabilizing. And I think I would love for, if I could have a wish, I'd love for everybody to back off, give her privacy, let her recover. There's going to be a medical, surgical recovery from the surgery and the wounds there, but there's going to be a longer psychological recovery. And that's going to be very difficult to do under the bright lights.
Holly, I'm curious about, obviously, as this news begins to sort of permeate, right, because it is now evening in London, what would we expect to see in terms of other potential disclosures of information now that we have had some kind of, very, in some ways specific, but in some ways leaves other questions unanswered statement? Is there potentially, follow-up, any kind of other, do we have a sense? I suppose this is uncharted territory.
It's a really interesting point, though, Elaine.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, as I think we all know, the British royal family has this strange, fractious relationship with the media, but in particular the tabloid media, the kind of powerful tabloid newspapers in the UK. And on the one hand, the royal family kind of needs the newspapers because it is saying that, you have to be seen to be believed if you're the royal family. They kind of need that coverage to stay relevant. But on the other hand, the newspapers sell papers, get clicks online with royal coverage, but they can choose whether it's positive coverage or negative coverage. I mean, one person who can tell you a lot about that is Meghan Markle, who suffered the negative coverage, right? So on the one hand, I think that the British media is going to be searching for any details that they can get about this. And people, the public in Britain wants more details. But on the other hand, they are dealing with an immensely popular person here, a person who, only joined the royal family in recent years. She's married into the royal family, but she is really loved. And I think people's hearts have gone out to her in the UK. I think my sense is that there's been less of the kind of rumours and conspiracy theories coming from the UK and more just sympathy for her position. So if the media chases those details too hard or reveals things that are considered private, I think that they run the risk of really, angering the British public.
I do think that if it's limited chemotherapy, adjuvant chemotherapy for several months, I said, for example, for colon cancer, it's about 3 months. People can feel lousy during that. And afterwards, they tend to recover. So I think time will tell. We're about, was the end of February when they started, so we're already at the end of March. Got another couple of months, maybe it'll end in I don't know, but in 3 months, in a total of 3 months. And then she should recover quickly. And appearances are important in the world, right? She'll start to have more color. She'll gain some weight. She'll look better to everybody. And then hopefully people will move on and she'll do well.
All of this, Charlie, if you're still with us, is happening at a time as the royal family is also is basically coming on the heels of the news of King Charles and his own cancer. Remind us about that and the disclosure that happened at that time, because when that happened, I think a lot of folks were genuinely surprised at the level of detail provided then about the king.
Share with you, speaking of King Charles, this came from Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace spokesman saying, His Majesty King Charles is so proud of Catherine for her courage in speaking as she did. Following their time in hospital, His Majesty remained in closest contact with his beloved daughter-in-law throughout the past weeks. Both their Majesties will continue to offer their love and support to the whole family through this difficult time. So the King and Queen, the first message that we got from Buckingham Palace about that. But as you said, yes, King Charles has been dealing with his own cancer diagnosis and treatment. And when we heard that, in fact, I was working that night when we broke the news, it was shocking enough, not only that something like that was taking place, the announcement itself, but the way it was going to be shared. In the past, even with his mother, they would have been reluctant to share those sort of medical details. And something that would shock the world, as Dr. LaPook said, when you use the word cancer, it's a shocking thing to say. So we had King Charles say it. We were surprised that he had come out and not given so much sort of granular detail, again, as far as what kind of cancer, what the treatment was, how long it's going to take. And then to see Kate do the same thing. So yeah, this family's going through a tough time.
Very difficult time. Well, I want to say thank you, Charlie D'Agata, Holly Williams, Dr. Jon LaPook. Thank you all so much for sharing your reporting and your insight with us.